Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Davies versus Masoud fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. Sorry for the little bit of a change of setup for my videos now. It's just what's had to happen, a little bit of a change of scenery, and it's nothing major. Anyways, for what you're actually here for, going into this, Davies is 16-0 with 8 KOs, and Masoud is 13-0 with 4 KOs. This fight is for the RBO World Super Bantamweight title. Davies' last fight was a win via TKO in round 2 versus Ayala, and Masoud's last fight was a win via points versus Solano. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I mentioned, this for that IPO title, in which Davies picked up last time out in that win versus Ayala, which was a very good win for him, to be honest. I mean, a destructive stoppage in which a fight in which Ayala looked like he was perhaps really coming into it, and then Davies timed a very nice uppercut and was able to get him out of there very quickly after that. And you could see that kind of that surprise on his face, that just like, wow, what have I actually just done? Look, when he did knock him out and when he was up on the ropes, he was just genuinely seemed like he was in shock. And I suppose maybe he's surprising himself with the power in which he's possessing and the timing and accuracy that he is able to show, and the fact he is able to get fighters out of there relatively consistently now. And when he was first coming up, he wasn't really seen as too much of a power puncher, too much of a guy who's going to be so destructive and getting everybody out of there. But now it seems like things have changed, and it seems like that could be the case where, I'm not saying he's completely destructive or anything like that, but he's on a bit of a very good run now, and he's got good timing, he's got good accuracy, he's going to catch you coming in often, and he's going to have success from that. And it's impressive to see what he's been doing so far. But this is definitely going to be an interesting fight for both fighters in general. I mean, Davies is kind of always in these fiery fights, these fiery matchups where there is that tense build up and there is that back and forth, and perhaps it gets him going more for the fight, but it definitely brings more eyes. Now with Davies main eventing, I'm not necessarily too sure how big of a draw he is fan wise to and generate enough attention to main events. And it's not a massive arena, the now BP Pulse live arena, but it's going to be interesting to see how he is able to sell that, and if he is that kind of, you have to be of course putting on these entertaining performances, but if you're also able to drive the fan base enough to be able to get behind you when you are of course main eventing, and all the eyes should be on you. And obviously this matchup, like I say as well, and fiery one, and like I mentioned, all the ones with Davies are fiery. Perhaps this one more than others. I mean, this of course was meant to be fought a couple months ago. It was all set up and ready from what it seems, and then Davies got an injury. So it's going to be interesting to see how he comes back from the injury, and if he's able to comfortably be able to get back and to be able to comfortably kind of have no problems with camp and have no injuries and things like that. So that's going to be a first thing. But also, it's created more time for it to be fueled, and I think both of them have this quite high ego about them, and you see it often with high level professional boxers. They have that kind of level of self-confidence, level of ego, and they both have that kind of high, like I say, level of ego. And so it's that kind of high ego matchup where both of them are going to be perhaps more determined than ever and more fueled up than ever to be able to put on a very good performance. And Masoud now has experienced that level of kind of main eventing already, and he's, perhaps wasn't the best of performances when he did main event, but he's definitely, like I say, experienced it now and has dealt with it a bit better now, and well, hopefully we'll be dealing with it a bit better now. But yeah, I think he's gonna be more locked in and more fueled up from this fight than he was in the fight versus San Martin, where he just looked too relaxed, too comfortable, really, or he looked like he didn't really know what to do, and it just looked like he was a bit out of his depth early on in his career, like I say, main eventing. And it is interesting to see what's happened with him, because when he was brought in, he was really hyped up, baked up by Matchroom, and there was a lot of expectation upon him for to be able to go on and really deliver. And Ben Davison with him in his corner is a huge name to have. And these talks of world titles as soon as he was signing with Matchroom and everything like that, and he was coming off a good win versus Jack Bateson beforehand. There was, like I said, that expectation for him to come through and to really showcase and to really put on great performances. And the San Martin one did, it didn't deliver at all, and it didn't live up to the expectation, live up to the hype at all. And he seemingly, I don't know if it's been abandoned by the Matchroom or dropped by Matchroom, or Matchroom aren't like pushing his fights anymore. I don't know if they are officially his promoter or not anymore, but they're not pushing this fight versus Davies. They didn't give him fights to keep active, keep busy on the undercards. They just kind of, I don't know what happened with behind the scenes things, because it seemed like when the original fight just got made, it seemed like Masoud then just kind of became a Queensberry fighter. And I mean, that last fight of his was on the was far down on the undercard, and was just a keep busy type fight. But it's just interesting to see, like I say, when he was hyped up and bigged up as much as he was by Matchroom, the fact that he's just not really being involved with them seemingly as of recent. But it will be interesting to see if he does get a win from this fight, if he is back with them and back being pushed by them or not. But like I say, we'll have to wait and see. Also on this card though is Cameron versus Burkholt for the WBC Interim World Super Lightweight title, in which I think Cameron will win via unanimous decision. Cameron, it's interesting to see how she's kind of accepting this lower, a bit lower down on the card position. I believe she's co-main event, but on fights which they are world title fights, but they're not huge fights, and in arenas that aren't really that big, it must be interesting to see how she's not dropped off, but she's not being put on quite as big of a stage in which she was, of course, when she was fighting Katie Taylor. So yeah, like I say, it's interesting to see that she's kind of accepting this lower position on cards, and not, even though she's still fighting for an interim world title. And yeah, like I say, it's just intriguing. But either way, she's coming off a good performance in her last fight, I believe against Matt Khaled, and it was a fight in which she did kind of outwheel her, outpush her, outforce her, and was just too much for her. And I believe she's going to be the same for Burkholt. I mean, I think Burkholt will probably have success. I think you're likely to have success versus Cameron, because she does stand kind of right in front of you, and if you are willing to stand and trade with her, then you will probably land a few shots and be able to have a bit of success from there. But I think inevitably Cameron will have too much success, and I think Burkholt, from there's not loads of tape on her, but of course she did not too long ago, a couple of years ago, fight Jonas, and it wasn't a bad performance from herself, but it's one of them fights in which you can tell her boxing skill level just wasn't high enough to be able to match that of Jonas's, and I think this could be the similar case for herself in this fight versus Cameron. But like I say, it's a good fight against a name who, like I say, has fought around the top of the division and has been able to mix it relatively well against them, and it's keeping herself busy. It's still fighting world level fighters. It's just not quite a let's push back for the Katie Taylor fight again, or let's push for another world title or anything like that. So, like I say, I think the whole super lightweight division is on a bit of a standby at the moment because of course we're waiting for the Serrano Taylor rematch. So I don't think any fighters are really pushing otherwise for these big fights, because there aren't really loads of available. But going back to the main event, Davies as a fighter, he's a front foot type fighter who finds his range fast, and that's something which I found out and I found interesting about him. He's able to get his foot on the inside well. He steps into his punches nicely, and his footwork isn't anything crazy, but that's a nice adjustment he's able to do. That's a nice little thing that he's able to do, which definitely catches guys off guard. It's definitely something in which a lot of fighters are not able to do, and it's nice that he's able to do it and to do it well. And he has that, of course, unexpected type power with the timing in which he has and with the accuracy in which he possesses. It's unexpected timing and unexpected power, and like I say, I feel like it even shocks Davies sometimes. And he's got good punch variation. He definitely lets his hands go. He has got that managing type jab where he's able to in general, like I say, managed the pace, managed the fight, and controlled the fight from that jab, which is a very nice attribute to have. And he has a good tight guard. Negatives about him, I think perhaps he does force the fight a bit, and when you do have this unexpected type power or this ability to be able to hurt guys and to be able to hurt them well, but like I say, surprise yourself a bit when you do so, you do kind of have a tendency to come forward and really force the fight and really think, oh, I have to get him out of there now. And of course, it worked versus Ayala very well, but I think at times he does try and force the fight a bit. He stands quite tall, he has his head on the line. I don't think defensive wise he's as good of a fighter defensive wise as that of Davies. He's open to count. I mean that of Masoud. That of Masoud. He's open to counters because, like I say, his head's on the line and he's standing tall. He's not overly physical, and in general, he doesn't look like the biggest of guys. He does back up in straight lines, which is not the nicest attribute to be having. If he does get put on the back foot by Masoud, he I think relies too much perhaps on his power now, and that is like again, like I was saying before, again, that's because I think he has that unexpected power and he's had success from it in recent fights. So now he has that momentum, that confidence from it. I think he will probably rely on that power, and I think he does a bit now. He's can be staying in range a bit too long, kind of planting his feet a bit too long, and his chin can be in the air at times as well. So we got Masoud as a fighter. He's got fast hands. I think Davies has fast hands, but I think Masoud, as that clean, sharp type boxer, definitely has the faster hands. He picks his shots relatively nicely, definitely has a lower output than that of Davies. Moves well, I think he does move better than Davies. I think he goes to the body well. They both, like I say, have that good ability to be able to have good shot variation. He's a clean boxer, he finds openings well and is quite comfortable just being able to pick the shots when necessary, and like I say, in close, be able to land certain shots which are nice, clean shots, that kind of sneaky, just tap to the body where it's a point scoring shot, even if it's not really doing too much. He's can fight on the front foot or the back foot. I think he can fight on the back foot better than that of Davies, but Davies ain't too bad on the back foot. He's got good timing, good work rate, he's accurate. He walks you onto punches. He's definitely a rhythm fighter, and that's what Sam Martin was able to disrupt a lot, that rhythm. And when you see these clean, sharp type boxers, they very much rely on rhythm. And if their confidence gets knocked, then their rhythm goes, and then they're not really the same type of fighter, and then perhaps they're a bit unsure what to do. And he's definitely a rhythm type fighter. But on the opposite side, he's definitely able to get into a flow, get into a rhythm relatively quickly. He can fight in the in close or at mid range. He brings his shots back nicely. And to speak negatives about him, I think he really does struggle to gain respect from his opponents, and he that was something, like I say again, that Sam Martin was able to capitalise upon, and I think Davies, on with that kind of front foot type style, might be able to capitalise upon. He does have a bit of a wasteful jab at times, just kind of flinging it out for not really too much of a reason, and again, that's not really gaining your respect at all either. I think he doesn't really deal with pressure too well. Like I say, him main eventing in that slot, he seemed to really struggle with the pressure of that. Um, he's not really that physical, and if things get physical, then I think he struggles. But like I said, I don't think Davies is either, so I don't think it's going to get too physical a matchup. He does sit on the ropes too long. Like I say, I think he moves better and has more defensive movement than that of Davies, but he still sits on the ropes too long and just, I don't know, waits to pick his shots or thinks that he can just parry all the shots and it doesn't matter. You're still losing points if you are just parrying shots. He doesn't necessarily make you pay when he gets you in good positions. He can at times make you miss and then with his head movement or spin you around, but he doesn't really necessarily make you pay after that. He drops his guard. I don't think he necessarily always fights to his boxing style and can get drawn into a fight. I think he can wait too long. And he doesn't really impose his kind of size at all as well. And he also stands relatively quite tall with that low guard that, like I say, he does drop. It means he can get caught with quite big shots. Davies is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Davies will win via split decisions or majority decision. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think Davies will try and flush him out of there into the early rounds, but I think Masoud will be able to hang on and carry on from that, and like I say, perhaps make Davies look a little bit silly at times with his movements. And I think it's going to be one of them fights where they're both going to be taunting a little bit and both really fueled up and ready for it. And I think if it I think it will go into the later rounds after Davies trying to force the fight early, and then Davies might do enough. I think Masoud will probably put on a bit of a good showing going into the later rounds, where I think he does improve into the later rounds. And Davies, of course, hasn't really had too much experience there in recent times. And so, yeah, I think Davies is still going to do enough to win with that aggressive style, where I think he's probably going to back Masoud up. And Masoud, if he does sit on the ropes, probably will get caught with shots. And I think, like I say, Davies is going to win via a close decision. And then who he could go on to fight next? I mean, if it's a close decision fight, of course they could make the rematch between the two of them for this one. And in general, I think it's difficult to get out of fighting in England. Obviously, Riyadh season has been able to take these British fighters and kind of take them into outside of Europe and things like that. But it's taken a lot of time for that to happen, and the likes of a Davies, the likes of a McGann and fighters like that with Queensberry have perhaps been waiting around in England fighting European level, like a Sam Noakes as well, and not really being able to take that kind of step outside of England and being able to have them big attention fights. And I think Davies definitely could be that Riyadh season type fighter. I'm sure His Excellency would love to see him fight. So, perhaps the rematch between the two of these, like I say, if it's a close fight. If not, Doheny could be a good fight, obviously, just coming off that loss versus Inoue, but that could be that kind of next step, just to be like, I've beaten. If he beats him better than Inoue beat him, then that could be, like I say, a real stake of a claim for him to be deserving of an Inoue fight, or really push him up the rankings. So that could be a good fight. The winner of McCann vs McGrail would be a great fight. Obviously, it's another one of these kind of English fights, but that would be another great fight, and I'm very excited for the McCann McGrail fight. And perhaps the winner of that could go on to fight Davies, and probably that would be in Saudi, or the winner of Ahmadalia versus Espinoza. You never know. Like, say, with Saudi and His Excellency getting involved, you never know, a fight like that could happen. I mean, Davies is ranked very highly in all the bodies, so we'll have to wait and see if that is able to happen or not. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.